have officially entered week 7 of the M&M show. Who knew we'd get this far? And only getting kicked off YouTube once with one video. So, like, I'm, all things considered, I think
we're highly controversial.
Highly controversial to the industry. I'm sure this opening will not get us any love, but I'm okay with that. George, what a great week it was. We had some teams that didn't look like they knew how to play football, some teams that looked like they were all about football, and, of course, the Jets are still the Jets.
It was a great week all around. The people imploded, or teams imploded that we thought would. Some did that we didn't think would, and some players hopefully are going to get their chance to get in the limelight here. So I'm really excited about this week.
Yeah, really excited about this week. We're going to bring it to you with all the joy that we can. Looking forward to it. George, you with me? Again, week 7 M&M show. We're coming at you with the fantasy world today. A lot of stuff happened last week. George, you did better on your pick'ems. You went 9-5. I'm proud of you.
Nice. Well, I always pay attention to the ones that I didn't get right.
Well,
Isn't that the way it is?
Well, that is the way it is. I mean, to be fair, we both thought the Falcons were done, dusted, and they found a way to get a win. Unfortunately, I still went 11-3 in my pick'ems. Well, flexing it up out there. Love me some pick'em time. And then you know what? The fantasy world. It was actually a really close matchup for our little game, but you got me. You put up 44 to my 41 because Chase Edmonds went out there and just laid an egg. Kenyon Drake looked good.
Drake looks real good, and I think it's fair to say that I picked people I was excited about, not necessarily people that were playing this week. So we did a little
switcheroo,
retconning before the games were played, and I added AJ Brown as opposed to forget who I had, Ruggs.
You had Ruggs, yeah.
So we'll try and pick somebody that doesn't have a bye week this time around.
Maybe we'll both keep a better eye on that. I mean, I had Murray who went great, and I was right? Like I knew I should have picked Arizona's defense. That's what I should have picked. But I knew Murray would have a good game. The Cardinals would destroy Dallas. That was one of the games you missed last week. But who knew that it would be Christian Kirk instead of Hopkins? You were a week early on Kirk.
I was a week early on Kirk, and I see him not slowing down either. I think that kind of blowing the lead here about what I'm going to talk about later, but I think Kyler Murray is just really starting to step it up. It's been consistent all year, but he's going to blow it up pretty soon.
So here's my worry about Kyler Murray is if you look at the numbers from last night's game, and I'm going to pull it up really, really quickly here, but if you look at his numbers from last night's game, like it looks really, really gaudy, right? Bunch of touchdowns. He ran one in. He threw for a couple. Like he in our league, he had 28 fantasy points. Okay. But here's my concern, okay, about Kyler Murray. And if we look at last night, okay, how many completions do you think Kyler Murray
had? 22.
He was 9 for 24, George.
You're kidding me. He only had 9 completions?
9 completions, 188 yards. He also ran for 74 yards, okay? So he put up gaudy points, but like 9 completions out of 24 dropbacks. That's bad. Now what that also tells you, and if you watch the game, you saw it play out, they were chucking the ball deep. But that is not sustainable. Like, I got lucky with him putting up 20, because I actually have Kyler in our league. I got lucky with him putting up 29 points with that kind of game. And so that's something that, like, long-term, that concerns me. Now his completion percentage on the years is around 65%. So I'm willing to say this is a one-off, but I want to make sure Kingsbury, like, they were just trying to take advantage of a Dallas defense that just was not there. Let's also just take a quick note. Now Dallas played like hot garbage. There's no doubt about that. Okay? The officiating in last night's game was horrific. When there is a pick that clearly there should have been pass interference on that Dre Kirkpatrick pick. And when the booth, right, they can't challenge it because it's on a turnover. When the booth calls down to the officials and says, you might take a look at that one. That was pass interference. And they still come back and say, nope, looked clean. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah, there's some bad officiating, but overall, Zeke really didn't do anybody any favors with coughing the ball up twice.
Well, he didn't look good, and Andy Dalton looked scared for his life back there.
It's very true. Yeah, the defense looked like it held up for a bit, but there's only so much that they could really do, the Dallas D.
Yeah.
Van Der Esch coming back seemed like it kind of rejuvenated them a bit, but again,
I mean, when you're just giving the ball back, giving the ball back, there's only so much you can do. So,
right.
well, let's jump into it. So let's go. And I mean, we'll just jump right into it. I'll tell you who's got me worried, and frankly, it's that entire Cowboys team. Now I'm going to break it down into some players, but that whole team has you worried as a team that looks defeated. And from a fantasy owner perspective, like, I don't want to see that. I've got Zeke on my team. I don't have a lot of other Cowboys. I'm not concerned about a lot of other Cowboys. But if you're a team that's given up, like, you don't want your star running back going out there. He's not going to be interested in going out there and playing, and that's got me concerned. What do you think?
I think he did a good job of taking ownership of, like, that he messed up and that the loss was on him. So I was encouraged by that. I'm not necessarily too concerned about Amari Cooper. I am a little concerned about Michael Gallup, just because of the idea that he makes some really great completions. Looked like he dropped a touchdown in the end zone a little bit early in the game. So I'm worried that he is just so used to Dak Prescott chucking him the ball, and he's never really worked with anybody else, that he's going to have trouble adjusting. So a little bit of a concern there. I'm willing to take a look and see if Andy Dalton can really get things together and right the ship in next week.
Yeah, I've got Dak as one, or not Dak. Well, I'm very concerned about Dak. I've got Gallup as one of the guys. I was worried about him last week going into the game. He did not make me feel any warm and fuzzies coming out of that game. I'm obviously concerned about Zeke. If he's had fumble problems this year, probably worse than any other year that he's been in the league, and it's obviously, like, last night didn't make me feel any better about that. So, like I said, a lot about the Cowboys there that concerns me. Another guy that I'm worried about, I've got a handful of quarterbacks. Like, we talked about Dalton, so I won't belabor that point. But Josh Allen has me I've got the yips a little bit about Josh Allen right now. And I've got the big yips about Kirk Cousins. Like, this dude came out, his coach was like, nah, Cousins will be fine. We'll stick with Cousins. And he was like, yeah, I'm probably done. Like, that doesn't make you feel good.
No, yeah. So Kirk Cousins, he has not been a viable quarterback start for a couple of years now.
10 picks this year.
Mm-hmm.
10 picks.
Yeah.
Now, what's crazy is he's kind of got this, I don't know, a little bit of this Jameis Winston thing going on. Like, he's still putting up points, right? He's still putting up yards and throwing touchdowns in most games. He laid an egg against the Colts this year, but that was at the time the best defense in the league. He's still putting up some pretty decent numbers and scoring points as a fantasy owner. But if you're eventually you got to feel like they're just going to go away from Cousins. Now, that being said, I have no idea who the backup is there in Minnesota. Obviously, Bridgewater's been gone for a while now, so I haven't the foggiest what they would even look to if they decided to move away from Cousins. But it doesn't look like they're winning a lot of games with Cousins behind center.
No, yeah. So I think that they're going to have to focus on being a run-heavy offense, and they've got some really good pieces. This is a good example for a bye week, because they've got a lot of really great, like Justin Jefferson is looking really great, and
Cook should come back after the bye too.
Yeah, so it's a really good time to be able to reset and just kind of get things together, figure out who they are as a team. Hopefully they'll come back looking better after the bye.
Yeah, speaking of the bye week, Josh Allen has the Jets. Maybe the only thing better than a bye week is going up against the Jets. That should give him plenty of opportunity to, like, get his head right, get back on track, and be able to actually throw some passes to some wide receivers.
Yeah, he has a division that he could really get feeling better in. I mean, playing the Chiefs, not always the easiest thing to do, one of the hardest things you could actually do. So he's lost to a couple of really good teams in a row.
Yeah, yeah. Who's the quarterback that's got you worried out there? And I've got one more on my list, but we're going to see if you have him first.
So I picked for this Baker Mayfield.
Mm. Yeah, it doesn't seem like he can perform if he's under the spotlight. Although he did a great job against the Colts.
Right. So my worries about him is because a lot of his wide receiver talent is, I'm pretty sure. I mean, if I had to guess, they're pretty disenfranchised. They don't trust him. They don't like him as the quarterback. When I was watching that game, it seemed to me that they were on purpose standing in a different area than he was, kind of disassociating with him. And when I say they, I mean Landry and I mean Odell Beckham. So I'm really concerned about Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham, and like what their outlook looks like for the rest of the year. I think maybe at least for Odell, for sure. I think maybe his best game is far behind him.
Yeah. I mean, that game against the Cowboys, he obviously put up monster numbers, but I'm not sure he's doing any of that again. You may be right. I'm with you there. The other quarterback that's got me worried is because like a lot of people have him as their fantasy quarterback, and they're pulling the plug is Ryan Fitzpatrick on a team that's 3-3. They've won a couple in the row by big numbers. They went into San Francisco and won a game nobody expected them to win. They hung tough against Buffalo. They dismantled Jacksonville. They won big this last week, but I don't know that I get it. Like, you want to give Tua a chance. I don't know, like that team has a shot at like in a bad division and make it like, you're telling me they can't be better than the Patriots? Like, I don't know if I believe that.
Yeah, so he would worry me because it's Tua's team now. So
Well, you can't pull the plug on it unless Tua gets hurt. Like, so Fitz magic is Fitz done.
yeah, so I think he was aware of this. I think that it's something where the team moving forward wants to see what Tua's got. But to your point, yeah, they're being pretty competitive in a competitive division.
And he's playing well too. It's not like he's out there throwing balloons up. I mean, honestly, like I would I would take Fitzmagic over Phillip Rivers. And I know Rivers just had a monster game. I would take Fitzmagic over Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers, like the Colts tried to find a way to lose to Cincinnati. And now not all that was on Rivers. The defense wasn't playing well out of the gate. Rivers absolutely said, okay, I'm going to put the team on my back. We're not losing to Cincinnati. But like, come on. Like, I would take Fitzmagic right now.
I would definitely take him over Phillip Rivers. Yep.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And I would also, if I'm Miami, like there's going to be a big quarterback injury that's going to happen this year. And you got to look at Fitzmagic as trade bait there, right? Get a draft pick, get a 4th, 5th rounder for him. If you're not going to play him, get him out of there because he still has value.
Somebody's going to be rebuilding that needs to have somebody that could fill in for the temporary and just lead as a veteran.
Yeah.
And he would be very valuable there.
Well, that's what he just did in Miami, right? And he put up some numbers doing it here and there. So helped a lot of fantasy over stream a quarterback on a bye week.
For sure.
So who's your running back? I'll give you mine. Mike Davis, he just had a rough week against the Bears. Good defense. And C-Mac should be coming back soon. So if you're a Mike Davis owner and you didn't have him as the handcuff, you've just been using him. I think time's about up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think time is about up. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be coming back soon, and he's going to assume his normal role. So I think that maybe as a waiver wire pickup, you got about as much as you could expect out of him.
Yeah, I mean, he won some games for people. He absolutely won the game for the guy who had him in our league over me. So because he put up like a 30-point game his first game. So what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. All right, who's the running back that you got concerns about, or were you there with me?
So I got two. No, so for that, I kind of feel like his time has come, but I got two very high round draft picks or low round, I should say, draft picks that I'm concerned about. Edwards-Helaire is one of them, because of the fact that there's going to be increased competition coming his way.
Man, but he looked good last night.
Yeah, but it still worries me because he was my first round pick. and I don't know what to expect when
Mm-hmm.
Le'Veon Bell hits town. Like
Mm-hmm.
it worries me a lot, and he's not getting any touchdowns, and the touchdowns is really starting to hurt in a PPR format. He could run for 170 yards, right? And that's great. But Zeke Elliott had like what, 8 catches for like 20 yards in a PPR that's worth 10 points already. So it's like it's concerning to me that I want to see what Le'Veon Bell does as far as what his role is in the offense.
Well, and you kind of had a nail on the head a little bit with he Edwards-Helaire has not looked good in goal to go situations, and he's just not getting the ball in the end zone. What was it, week 1 against Houston? They gave it to him 5 straight times on the goal line. He couldn't get it in. So that's a spot where you assume even if Le'Veon Bell comes in and does cleanup work on the goal line, like those are poaches away from Edwards-Helaire, in the long term. So that could
Yeah.
hurt you this year.
And that's something you had to worry about anyway with Patrick Mahomes. Like he's known to kind of run the ball in when it gets close. So
Kyler Murray issues. Kyler ran one in and poached one off of Chase Edmonds last night, which is again fine for me as a fantasy owner. I have both of them, so I didn't care. All I cared as long as Kenyon Drake wasn't out there, I didn't care.
Yeah, and the other running back that's concerning me that was also a kind of costly draft pick for me in a lot of leagues is Antonio Gibson. He's just not like I'm not feeling good about putting him in my lineup. He's sitting on my bench. He's getting like 8 to 10 points per game, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. But I'm waiting for that dynamic, like all the dynamicness that I heard was existed in camp. I want to see that actually materialize, and he's one of the few rookies that I took a high level flyer on that hasn't really panned out just yet.
Yeah, no, I've got you there. I mean, this week will be a week where he'll have an opportunity to do that against a Dallas defense that we just don't. Granted, they're going to look better against Washington than they did against obviously the Cardinals. I just don't know. Like they're not going to. This isn't going to be a shutout. Nobody's going to be pitching a shutout in that game. So that should be an interesting. That Washington and football team and the Cowboys should be an interesting game this week. Tell me who's got you a little bit excited.
So players that I'm excited for is I've been waiting. I've had him in all of his original packaging. I was waiting to take him out and be able to start him and play with him. And even in one league, my 14-team league, I chose to start him over some of my other maybe not so great wide
more
receiver
established
options.
Yeah.
But DeAndre Swift had him a game.
He finally had himself a ball game, didn't he? I'm with you. I've got him in our league, and I am excited about him. Now, he's not the running back I chose this week, but I like that out of you. Who was the quarterback you chose this week?
So I chose this week. I chose Kyler Murray, just because of what I saw last night. Maybe it's recency bias, but I just feel like that he's just really bringing it together. He's got a lot of the tools that he needs to really do a lot of damage with his legs and with his arm. So I am going to go with Kyler Murray this week. I wish I drafted him, but I didn't.
There you go. Who's your wide receiver?
So wide receiver, I picked Justin Jefferson, but again, I did the dreaded bye week pick.
At least you caught it this time.
I caught it this time, so I don't want to say I'm excited about this, but I'm excited about a bounce back game from Tyreek Hill. So I'm going to make Tyreek Hill my pick for this week. I have
that Broncos defense is actually okay. Like they're pretty decent. That's gonna be an interesting matchup, but it's hard to bet against Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. So you have a league. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say I have a league where I have Tyreek Hill and then I have Travis Kelce. So it feels like a security blanket because it feels like even when
one of the two of them is going to blow up. Yeah.
First of all, Tyreek Hill had a touchdown in every game so far this year. He hasn't blown it out of the water in any game, but except for last night, obviously, because it wasn't a good night for him. But every other game this week, whether it's a rushing touchdown or this year, whether it's a rushing touchdown, obviously a catching touchdown, he's had a touchdown every single week. Kelsey's been consistent, so it almost feels like, oh, I got 2 touchdowns from Kelsey last night, so I could afford to not get a touchdown from Tyreek Hill.
From Tyreek Hill. I like your pick with Murray there against Seattle. I think that's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. Russell's not going to be kept quiet, and so I think that's one where you could see there's going to be picks that are thrown. You're going to see a lot of physicality, a lot of penalties. These two teams do not like each other traditionally. Living out in Arizona, I've been to a handful of these games. The fans don't like each other. That's going to be a fun one to watch on Sunday afternoon. My quarterback, but I do like that pick because I think Murray's going to. I mean, for the Cardinals to be in that game, Murray's going to have to be chucking the ball. I picked bounce back weeks. I double stacked here for my quarterback. I went Rodgers, and for my wide receiver, I went to Devontae Adams. I'm expecting big bounce back weeks out of the Packers, and they're playing a pretty soft Texans team. And so that's a spot where I think like they're going to put up some numbers, and I think they're probably going to be playing a little bit angry. And I think when you upset a multi-time MVP like Aaron Rodgers and you get him angry, then the Incredible Hulk comes out and we get some things going on there. And then the other guy, and this is totally matchup based, but Kareem Hunt, I expect him, as long as Nick Chubb's not back, and I'm almost positive he's not yet. I expect Kareem Hunt to have himself a game against the Bengals. Even when Hunt was playing that first game, it was high scoring, and Hunt had himself a game against the Bengals. I expect that to happen again here.
Yeah, with Rodgers, my one comment with that is it's just so hard to have a passing quarterback be top 5, top 10, because especially with some of the formats that you have out there, really pay attention to how much a running back gets per yard, because some of these running quarterbacks could be an absolute game changer when it comes to your scoring format. So just be careful.
When you look at guys
that.
like Lamar and Josh Allen, even Josh Allen had a respectable game last night against Buffalo because he ran for 70 yards on the ground. Kyler Murray's another great example. Threw for 180 yards but ran for 72. Ended up with a 29-point game.
Yeah, what made Lamar Jackson really good last year is it wasn't that he was a QB1, he was a QB2, but he was an RB1.
Right,
so
right.
Every single game he would put together at least 100 yards and at least a touchdown or two running the ball. So it was like you had an extra running back on your team.
Yeah, and I think, well, again, that's what you see out of Kyler. I think that's a change we're seeing from a fantasy perspective. I don't know that you're going to see a lot of Super Bowl champions doing that, right? Like what makes Mahomes so dangerous is he can do it with his feet, but he's almost like a throwback scrambler who scrambles out of the pocket and then chucks it sidearm down the field. Like he's a backyard football player as opposed to a guy that's actually running to get into the end zone all the time, right?
You have to be balanced. Yeah, you can't. Yeah. You have to make it so that a team can't take one aspect of your game away from you, and then you just kind of fall to pieces. And that's where Lamar Jackson is at this point.
Yeah, I mean, teams have stopped him from running this year, and that's where when you've been able to see a team that's put the kibosh on him running, that's when a team has been able to hurt Baltimore. So that'll be interesting. You mentioned in our pre-call that you've got a couple players that you think are worthy on the wire right now. I don't know that I see any players out there on wires that are worthy, but I'm interested to get your opinion on it.
So yeah, we've been doing a disservice so far to the tight end position, but I'm feeling good about a couple of things, a couple different quarterbacks that are low owned, or depends on what league you're in. I know I kind of I waved bye to Carson Wentz a few weeks ago, but I actually feel like that he is getting in position to do some damage here. Zach Ertz is probably on the shelf for a good 3 to 4 weeks. Dallas Goedert is getting very close to playing and is due to play this week. So Dallas Goedert is owned in less than, I want to say, 15% of leagues right now. And he's
due to play this week?
He is looking like he's ready to go this week. Yep.
So I
Either
had
that
not
or
heard that about him yet, but I've been keeping an eye on him because that's a guy that I'm with you. I think a lot of folks are tight end needy. That's a commonality, and I think that's a guy that it would be a very sneaky pickup. Another guy that I'll add to that list from a tight end perspective, and you'd kind of be chasing points here, but Trey Burton.
I had that too. Yep.
Yep, Trey Burton is a guy that has Frank Reich had him in Philly. He had some big games in Philly when he was with Frank Reich, and he's now getting worked back into the offense in Indianapolis. He had a bunch of targets against every game he's played this year. He's had some targets, and now he's finally starting to get some rhythm with Rivers. And I think that's a spot. I mean, tight ends, two different tight ends scored 3 touchdowns for the Colts last week against Cincinnati. So he's on a bye this week. So I think he's safely left on the waiver wire this week. But that's a guy that you could see. He's only rostered on under 10% of leagues. So that's a guy that you can definitely see maybe taking a flyer on if you need to stream a tight end in bye week.
Yeah, your team is got a big bye week coming up, and what you want to be on the lookout for is these players that are probably going to get dropped that are actually pretty good. You guys have a really good young kicker, Blankenship.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend picking him up in the same capacity that I picked. I hope I'm not pronouncing it wrong, but you from the Falcons.
Yeah, from the Falcons. Yeah.
And he's been great.
This last week, Blankenship, and he still had 8 points, but it was his first game in his NFL career so far that he hasn't kicked more than 2 field goals in a game. So that's the Colts are a field goal heavy team. So that's a spot where there's value there. I also think there's value in that Indy defense, right? I know they haven't looked good in a couple weeks. They're going to be dropped because it's a bye week. So that's the Indy defense, Trey Burton, and I think Blankenship are all spots where you can go get them off of a bye week, and you should start to expect to see them come back, pretty strong. Because my hope is that Darius Leonard's back. Once Darius Leonard's back, and that defense, they will magically be a top 10 defense again.
Yeah, the one thing I haven't really been paying much attention to is defense because I rolled the dice a couple years ago.
Worked out well.
Yeah, a couple years ago it was the Chicago Bears, and that worked out really well. Last year I think it was the Steelers that I really I kind of rolled the dice on, and they did really well. I rolled the dice on Tampa Bay this year, and I have them in all of my 7 leagues except for one, and they've been doing really good work. My advice with defense is if you believe in a defense, don't necessarily care too much about matchup because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really lit up Aaron Rodgers last night.
Yeah, I mean that was a Sunday against that was a shock to me as well. So that's definitely a one to go get them with. I think all good information. And if you're really QB needy, Miami's on a bye this week, but go get Tua and see what he can do. So I don't know that I'd be looking to start him, but he's obviously going to be out there, and it'll be an interesting scenario to see how he does in his first couple NFL games.
Yeah, I'm interested from a QB perspective. Jimmy G looked really good coming back. He's got a lot of his weapons back. He looks like he's fully healthy. So I think he would be a good pickup. Derek Carr is somebody that's just coming off of a bye week. He's just getting some of his toys back. Super deep sleeper. If you have a 14 team league and you really don't, you're just like kind of wasting space. Never waste space at the end of your bench. Pick up somebody like Bryan Edwards. He is a real good-looking rookie. That's wide receiver for the Raiders, along with Ruggs. A lot of really good pieces coming back for Derek Carr at the right time.
Yeah, I'll give you that, and then I'm gonna give you one more. I don't think he's gonna last very long. He's rostered in 60% of leagues, but a lot of people have given up on AJ Green. He looked great against the Colts last week. Put up a monster game, had 17 points in a PPR format. And if he can start, I mean, he's, I think, like the second most targeted player in the red zone in the NFL this year. And if he can finally kind of put together a little chemistry with Joe Burrow, like obviously we know the talent's there. I think it's funny because I think a lot of these veteran players, like you always hear them not wanting to play in the preseason and have camp and all that. and we're seeing this year just how long it's taking players to like get up to speed and get up to running and all of that. And I think that's a spot where you would see some earlier success. So just one more guy that you can look at.
Yeah, sure. And for wide receiver, for me, speaking of bye weeks again, Mike Williams of the Chargers. He had a couple of really quiet first weeks. He's just starting to get chemistry with Justin Herbert. Odds are that a lot of folks gave up on him because he was hurt for a good first 2 or 3 weeks, but he was absolutely lights out in the red zone last year, or not last year, but I believe the year before.
2 years ago, yeah.
And then last year he was just kind of okay. He's worth a roster spot. Adam Humphries is just coming back from being on the COVID list. And he actually performed really well. I think he had a touch and about maybe 8 catches for about 100 yards. And Deshaun Jackson, if you're really, really desperate, he looks like he is ready to come back. Just don't have a real high expectation for him. Don't drop somebody that you really want on your bench for him. But if you have the hole in your bench, why not pick up Deshaun Jackson?
Love it. All right, George, what give me what was your biggest surprise from the weekend?
Biggest surprise for the weekend, I think it would have to be the way that the Chiefs game went.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you. I won't disagree with you there. I'll actually say my biggest surprise of the weekend, and I sort of called it, but I just didn't think it would be was just how disheveled Dallas looked.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that would end up being a bit of a high scoring game. I was shocked how Zeke wasn't. I mean, I'm happy he took some ownership. I'm with you there, but man, just surprising me there. So,
yeah, that was a big shock how he kind of let the ball go a few times, and it kind of changed a lot of the momentum of the overall game.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
It did. All right, well, that's all we have for the fantasy week that was. Hopefully you learned a lot here. You can take this to your leagues. And this will be all the difference maker moving into week 7. We'll see you back here for the pickups coming up next. George, you still with me?